So earlier we looked at all these interface elements. We have the tool tab here. You have some math functions here. So we'll go step by step. We'll try out a few, and then we'll see how we develop small scripts in containers, and then attach it to develop like bigger components. Try to understand something that's a bit more complex. Break down the thinking in simple terms. This is not like intermediate level. It's still basic, so that everyone gets to understand. And of course, we'll increase the difficulty as we move forward. And we don't have any direct some target form that we're trying to achieve. It's more of the exploration at this module as well. And then from the third module, we would be showing something related to art and collectible, where we'll have an end goal and then we'll develop it into it. So yeah, so first thing would be to understand how some of the math operations work. Easy way to think is if we drag the addition one, what you have is two inputs. We can give two numbers, say 25. Output of this goes input. And then you have another one. If you hold Alt and then if you hold the node and hit Alt, you can duplicate it. So that's an easier way to duplicate. You can add this, and then you get the number. So there is a command called panel. If you connect it, it provides you the value. We can play with the numbers. So this is like a quick intro to input output and giving the initial. Let me just now let's come to something a bit more challenging. It's not challenging, it's simple for most users, people who have been used to parametric tools. Simple, but these things will come up later on. Second are vectors. So we've already constructed a point earlier. Point has three inputs: x vector, y, and z. We gave those points three values. You could also get vectors for particular directions. Like for example, you can get a component for a vector in x direction. And why this becomes useful or handy is because if you want to do some transfer, if you want to move an object, you would also need to give an input of which direction that it needs to move, and therefore the input becomes vector. So this is, say, vector in x direction. You have a lot of vector nodes here. You could also deconstruct a point to extract values out of that particular point. It just gives you understanding of how the data flows. So if we give 20, and then let's say we give like 15 on this. You can see how the data is flowing and it comes back. You see all the lists in the same order of input coming as an output. So we've looked at points. Let's create a couple of points and then start thinking from point to lines to curves to surfaces to solids, how we can develop it as a step-by-step process. This will probably assist you with the way of thinking of how things are broken down and how they combine to become something bigger. And in between, you'll have different steps that will help you develop the model further. You could either go directly from a solid box, or you can create a point, a rectangle, create a surface, and then make it into a solid. So these are different ways that you get more control of the form. Double click on the canvas. Point. What we'll try to do is to create a line. If you go to primitive curves toolkit, you'll have a lot of ways to create curves. So the first thing, easy way, is to create a line. Now you have 2 points, connect both of them. Another cool thing that you can do to add values is you could create here directly and then add the numbers. Just giving some random numbers for now. And you can see how the model changes. And that's the line. So you can click on the line and then you can go here and then zoom into the model. You can see how the line is performed. There are more tools that you can find on creating curves. You can create an arc using 3 points. So in this case, we already have 2. Let's just create more. Interpolate is also another interesting tool that allows you to create a curve through any number of points. Hermik, you just
Yeah,
notice that when you drag with Alt, it's creating
yeah,
many
I noticed
multiple. Yeah.
it's a Windows issue.
So in this case, we're trying to interpolate with 3 points. So let's create this. So another point. Let's say 16. 5. Then let's say 2. And so we have 3 points. And then we can bring those points here, join it. And earlier I had shown we can add multiple outputs to one input point. So for that, we can hold shift, do it. Yes, because if you don't hold shift, this is what happens. If you connect another point, it just cancels out the earlier. So hold shift, and then you can connect all of these. You can hold control and then cancel out a particular connection. Yeah. So you see, now this creates an interesting curve configuration. Now these are things that you would probably use while modeling. You would want your geometry or the form in slightly unique manner. Similar tools. I think these components, most of them are similar commands to your other parametric tools, and therefore their adaptability is much easier. There is one tool that is unique to BeeGraphy. It's just the curve editor. So now we've seen some of the ways to make lines and curves. Now, if you want to create or customize curves even further, so you can use the curve editor. The interesting bit is what you see here is what you see on this particular window. Now you can change the curve, adjust it the way you like, and then it adapts. You can also add more nodes to it. So I think this is a pretty interesting feature that you can use to create some geometries. You also have controls over the location of each of those points, control points that you have for the curve, and you can move it manually, or along with that, you can also control the width and height of the curve altogether. You can also increase the decrease, make it polyline, like a node curve, then use that as an input for your other functionalities. So these are how you can do curves. And it's we're just doing the initial bit, so everyone feel free to explore as much as possible. You have way more tools. You can have arcs. I'll go with circles next. You can try out circles. So in circles, what you need is an origin, which is a point. We could extract one of the points from here and then create a circle here. Another thing to just tidy up the script and your 3D space, you can hide. If you click on these three buttons, the set options that I was talking earlier, you can hide them. And now you see it changed status. So let's zoom in on the circle. Now radius is 10. You could either type the radius as a constant, or you could change it as a variable later on. So that's mostly about circles. You have surfaces. Now we discussed how we could move from points. So now points created curves or circles. And then now we look into how we can create surfaces out of these curves. So if you go to the surface tab, you have curve to surface. Just has an input, it just converts the curve that you've created. I'm not going for any specific form, it's just organic. I'm just trying to see how things change when you're bringing in different components. For a lot of the new users, this might be something that's helpful. Have more tools like you could create a pipe surface. Let's try that. Now I'm hiding the flat surface here. We have a base curve, which is this. And then now we add it like, I see the pipe has two inputs. One is the curve itself. So we divide it and then the radius. So in this case is 10. We could create a range output for this and try to use it as a variable to play with. So we can have it as one, two, three. Yeah, so complicated your curve is, you can always bring it in and then see what that does. Look at more functions. You could create rectangular surfaces as well. We did that initially. What you need to give is an origin point, and then you have your width and length, and that creates a surface. Hide rest of them. Yes. That's how you create surfaces easily out of some curves. You could also use some additional tools, additional transformation techniques like extruding a curve into solids. So that's also something that we could look into. So now we have this curve. We have another process called extrude curve. You can add it to the curve. Now, earlier I had mentioned about the importance of vectors. So extrude curves asks for a direction in which the curve needs to be extruded. So if you have, let's say, vector along x-axis, vector along you'll see how it changes.
Try refreshing.
Oh, yes.
Is the extrusion too small?
Extrusion,
Oh, maybe
I think
it's
it's fixed.
because in vector X, it doesn't know how to extrude it. Or no, something
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah. I think it's just X and Y.
But
Let's
there is
try reset.
obviously
Yes, again.
a bug.
Okay. Another interesting function is that if you this is not there in Grasshopper, I've noticed you can click on the geometry and it takes you to the component, which is quite cool. So you don't get lost in the script. So that's about extruding of curves, simple surfaces. We've done simple surfaces. We could also look at solids. There are solid options where you could bring spheres, boxes inside these. Just a bit. For the sphere. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of options for creating geometry. We'll go into more transformations later on as we discussed earlier. So we looked at some of these simple geometries. Now we'll try moving, scaling, mirroring these kind of functions. So this would require a bit more complexities involved. So let's try moving this sphere to the side. The easy way, you can double click and click on move. It asks for the geometry, provide it to the sphere, and it has a vector input. Now we can give which direction it needs to be moved. Let's move it in Z direction and then a factor of 10. So just to exaggerate a bit, we can provide say 30. Right? And it creates both because it's both part of the script and you can access either at any time you want. But if you don't want it, you can hide it. Now we have moved the geometry. Now I would create a range input here just to get a better control over the so this is the move commands. There are more transformative tools, so you can move, mirror. I would say rotate. Rotate is something else that would come handy. Let's take this rectangle. So the way you navigate is you can keep moving your nodes, keep it closer, so that it's easier for you to kind of connect and progress with the script. So I'm using this geometry, just hide rest of the geometry. Focus on this rectangle. Adding geometry, you have input for its center. So this is for the axis. Now it's taking origin as a center point. We could give angles. Currently, the angles are in radians. I'm sure most of us are familiar with degrees. So what you can do is if you go to math under tools, you have decrease to radians. So you bring that here and give, let's say, 40 degrees. Connected. So it gets rotated along this axis. As you keep moving, it keeps changing. That's something you can do with rotate. Change the geometry and see how all that works. Probably give a range output so that you can visualize it better. Yeah, learning, what was that shortcut for the range one that you mentioned earlier?
Well, you can type the number, or you can even give it a range like 0 less 10 or 0 less 5 less 10, for example.
Yeah. So that way you can.
By the way, for disconnecting, you don't have to hold command and drag all the way. You can just click command or control in your case and
Yeah.
click on the field, hold command.
Okay.
It will
That's
disconnect all if you have multiple.
okay. Okay. That's good. Yeah, good. G60. Cool. So that's rotation. You have move. The other transformation tools like mirror, scaling. Scaling is also quite important. We can try scaling the same box object. Geometry. Yeah, so that's also sorted. So scaling. So these are some of the quick transformation things that you all can try out. Learning. Let's take a quick 5-minute break,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can resume with the other things. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With that.
Okay.
While
All
you
right,
will
guys.
in a break, I can answer some questions if there are
Okay.
any.
All right. All right. Cool.
I published a poll. While we have a break, can you guys take a minute to go to the polls? I don't know how it appears in front of you, but maybe if you could vote, we could understand better who has what kind of experience. We should have probably done that in the beginning to understand like how much time we should have dedicated to like the early things. There's so far 1 vote for no experience, and 1 vote for very little. 2 votes for some. 3 votes for intermediate. Okay. Some 1 vote for pro. Probably the pro and advanced guys. It's very boring for you, unless Safiz and Divya, it were you.
I think we should go through this, taking into consideration that most people, it's new for them.
Okay.
I think the one that Divya would be taking is slowly pushing it up a little bit, because otherwise it'll be challenging for them to understand the next workshops and the commands, the vectors. Yeah, there is a question relating to
So there's a question related to plotting, mathematical plotting of surfaces. By Hector. So he's asking if we can use equations to plot mathematical parametric surfaces on BeeGraphy.
I'm not sure
so
I understood the questions, but there is math expression. Is it something that the question is about? Unless you guys understood it better, maybe you can answer. Okay.
You share the link.
The link. Let's see. So input an equation for like a surface.
I don't think it is there yet, but we can use multiple equations like multiple math operators to create this surface. So I think Bose minimal surface is doable, but you cannot do it directly by putting the equations there. But you will have to rather use the sine cos operator or other mathematical operator that are there, and then combine them to create these kind of surfaces. So it's possible to create the surface, but not by directly putting the equation.
So if you put directly the equation, can you see my screen?
Yes, you are able to see the screen.
So if you can add ports here, like for multiple variables, you can't rename them at the moment. You can change parameters, like values here, put like variables here.
Yeah.
And write versions. How do you square root? Square root. Yes, you can do the equations, but then how you apply those values, it's a different question. Depends on your approach. So create points and use those values, I don't know, for those points, for example. And then construct lines and loft them curves. Love the curves. That's how you can probably do that in BeeGraphy, but like create a surface and just use like a math expression as an input. Um, to give everyone on this call some understanding, I'm not myself a computational designer. I just know how to use the tool, but I'm not a master. I clicked some in the poll myself. Uh, but if you guys can share how you do it in Grasshopper, then maybe we can explore a bit and find a way how to do the same in BeeGraphy or add a node for that. Is there a way, by the way, to do that, Safis, in
Yes, in
Grasshopper?
Grasshopper, we can do that.
Yeah.
What's the name of the node?
It's not node, but it is a mathematical expression which we have to input. So here also we can do that in BeeGraphy also, but we will have to use multiple operators actually to do that.
Yeah, maybe after the call, you could educate me a bit, share some links.
I can explain it after the call. Okay, next question was how to simplify, reverse, flatten, and graft in BeeGraphy. I think anyone of you would like to take this one?
Are you guys gonna be showing that
Yeah.
in this?
Simplify, reverse, flatten, and graft.
Like the short answer that there are a group of nodes for operating or managing data trees. But if you guys are gonna be showing it in this workshop, maybe or the short answer, you just double click,
I think
type simplify, reverse,
yeah.
flatten, graft.
I think we'll just explain very simply what they actually perform and why it is required, and then we'll go to understanding how data flows in the script. So I think we'll touch base on that.
Mhm.
Okay, the short answer is it's possible. I mean, it is doable in BeeGraphy, and we will show you later how to do that. Okay, the next question is learning to you. Is there any scope for AI in the future?
Yes, most definitely. In the future, it's just the matter of when. Uh, no, well, they didn't ask when, but probably not this year.
Okay.
The easiest things that we can do early is uh, use AI for rendering, for creative renders. That we may do earlier, but the the more complex things that making put in a prompt that will create an algorithm like an entire script, that's something for the next year.
Okay.
Quickly get back to
Yeah.
the last few bits. So what we need to do now is some transformation techniques like Boolean, quick Boolean paneling would be interesting to add panels to certain surfaces, how that can be added, and then adding material and also exporting into the format of exporting. So we'll quickly show that and then move to the next stage. Right, so if you have to, I'm sure most of you guys would know what Boolean is. It's like combining solids and also subtracting solids from each other. So we can try to do one Boolean and then we'll try to do a paneling on a surface. And then we'll try to provide material to these two and then end this session too and then head to the third one. So we have a geometry here that we have scaled. Now what we'll do is we'll try to bring a sphere. control the radius to 5. So now you see the geometry is overlapping. So what we'll try to do is we'll try to do one Boolean union, combine this geometry together, and then subtract it as well. We have these two. Now we have the Boolean tools all under here. So you have Boolean operations. You have Boolean surface union. You have solid union. So let's bring that. Again, hold shift to bring the other. Right. And if you hide both of them, now it's working. So that's one solid union. And if you want to find difference of it, you can do a Boolean difference. Same process. So you provide the initial solid that you want to keep, and then you take the other one that you want to cut from. Hide the others.
You have something visible? Can you click on that sphere in the middle?
Yeah. So now we have a Boolean difference. So you have these subtract functions as well that you can incorporate into your form exploration. Next thing would be paneling. Paneling is it's interesting. So let's hide what we've done so far. I have all the panels here. Pick up a simple one. Surface, add the surface, divide. You can, same thing, add a range input to it. And you will start creating different types of panels. And then you can access your panels here and also the centers here separately. So that's mostly about how you can create these panels. Another thing that I will show quickly is adding material to this. So you have the materials tab in a texture. So this is applying material. I think it will be better to apply it on that geometry that we created earlier. Geometries.
It wants a color because of the color input. It shows an error.
Yeah, you can pick it from any part of the screen and then add it to a color. You can provide material. You can also adjust metallicity and roughness. I'm going to add a quick slider on this. And to see the material more clearly, just change the render style. Yeah, and once you're kind of happy with your model or geometry, what you can add is you can add an exporter in whichever format you prefer. Bring your exporter, connect it to the geometry, and then when you go here, you have an option to export. So this is where you can, if you have multiple exporters, you'll get those options here. You have STL, you have STP, OBJ, DXF, any format, wherever you want to take this, it'll show up here when you export. You can also give the polygon count if you want to process a much detailed model. That's also an option. And then when you download, you can then take it further and develop it. Yeah, that's mostly it about some of the basics of BeeGraphy in this part two. We'll do slightly more components and detailed versions in the next module, which Divya would be looking into. And then we'll slowly up the game as we move from workshop to workshop. Yeah, if you guys have any questions. Yeah.
Sefis, I just thought that maybe quickly go over the configurator mode and the demo mode.
Oh, yes. So if we go into the configurator mode, we can view the model with all the variables that we had added earlier. So currently what we made active are those metallicity and the color options. So learning, we'll cover this in the
Okay.
next module as well. And then we can come back to it and show it in more detail. So just the this module, we'll just keep it a bit rough,
Okay.
and then we'll add this. Yeah.
Yep.
So if people have any questions about like just the basics of these steps, I'm sure it's there in other tools as well. But like for people who are new to get introduction to this, is quite important. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, please drop in the chat. We'll take like another 10 minutes break, and then I think Divya could start with the first module related to the categories.
Size of the panel in the paneling tool. Oh, let me try. I don't think it's possible similar to Grasshopper. But
Currently, it's more on the U and V values based on the subdivision.
no, I think he's talking about the debug panel, like resizing the debug panel. Let me. No, I just tried. It's not possible. Adding nodes to groups. Yeah, you can create groups and then add nodes to groups. in a similar manner, like in Grasshopper. Okay, Safiz is now gonna show that. So he selected a group, and then there's a folder type icon on top.
You can create a group, you can remove, ungroup it. You can also align a group of things. These
And
things will definitely tidy up your script.
and you also can click Control G or Command G for those who use Mac to create a group, and then you can also rename the nodes, the inputs, and the groups by double clicking on the name. And when something is grouped, it will be also displayed as grouped in the demo mode and configurator mode. So you can click on the group 01 and it will expand. And you can rename those inputs so that it's clear for everyone who's
Yeah,
open, like those range inputs for.
yeah, these ones, no? Okay. Currently we haven't given, so we could.
Scott, I don't know how to answer the question. Like, is your question why we decided to do it in the web, or in general? Like, if the question is about graphical programming interface, it's not us who invented it. The most popular tool for that is Grasshopper, the industry standard, which is a really great tool, very powerful. So our approach was to do the same, but in the web, so that more people have access to it, so that it's easy to integrate, so that people can collaborate in real time and stop sending each other files or even sharing static files, instead of letting their collaborators participate in the design process. Like, for example, SF is now doing in the configurator or demo mode. When a person who doesn't know visual programming or computer aided design, you can participate in the process and adjust the model just with the intuitive interface, like with sliders or drop downs. I see. Well, hopefully we can make a good tool that you can use with your clients.
Think
Yeah, questions, I think we've covered most of the
Did I miss
questions.
anything? I think. Oh, yeah, there was a question. Any plans to add loop function where next input is based on the last output? Yes, definitely we will. It's on our task board. It's just we didn't get time to develop it further. So thanks for another reminder that something that you want. Oh, Just noticed that you were talking about the panel size on a surface. Yeah. Shafi's
Yeah, yeah.
answered.
Yeah.